Welcome to the Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. I'm so happy you found us. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on I-Fiber One News Radio, KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Good Wednesday to you. Daybreak show here on I-Fiber One News Radio. Good morning, Spencer.
Hey, good morning. Happy midweek to you already.
Midweek for sure, as we're getting ready to wrap things up. Kaiser has a T-ball practice tonight, and then his first game is on Saturday. The old Seawolves.
Oh, nice.
Is our team. The Erie, they come from the Erie Seawolves. It's a farm team for the Detroit Tigers.
Oh, okay.
And so first, fortunately, we were able to do T-ball. We were supposed to do spring ball, Capital Little League, canceled that, of course. We had our first practice, and then that night, everything shut down. So we've been no practice for the last 2 months, and they finally said, well, we've got our guidelines, and we're going to do this if you still are interested. And we said, sure, we'll do this. I'd planned on coaching this year as well, so I went on a website that found like cute minor league mascots, and
that's
so
cool.
I sent it out to the parents, and I said, here's kind of the ones I'm leaning towards, and we all landed on the Seawolves, which is kind of a cute little wolf with a pirate outfit.
I like that. It's original too. You don't see that really.
No, you don't. And I'm just hopeful that when we get our uniforms, at least the hat has some sort of a logo that is similar to that. That's not like an E or an S. That wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, that's awesome. The things are getting back into the swing of things. Well, no pun intended, but kids need that especially. But sports has been something that's been so absent. It's such a big part of our culture, and we haven't really had a chance to enjoy it for the last several months.
Well, I did get the note in from the Mariners that spring training is going on now, and they're going to get ready to start playing ball in about 2 weeks.
Wow.
So we're likely to have Mariners in some form, unless, this thing all totally goes sideways. But that's the thought. Within a couple weeks, there may be some Mariners baseball back on old KMAS.
That's fantastic.
Today on the show, Dick Taylor and Wendy Smith stop in from the Port of Shelton. Also, EDC Director Jennifer Baria talks about help available to businesses in Mason County. And we've got two more folks who are deserving for dinner with our new contest. First, though, this morning, let's start with a COVID update. 56 confirmed cases, 9 are active, and there has been one related death from COVID in Mason County since the beginning and at the time of the release yesterday. Residents in the state must wear facial coverings inside businesses like grocery stores and restaurants or be asked to leave under a new statewide order in response to the coronavirus. Inslee announced the new mandate last week prohibiting businesses from allowing a customer to enter or conducting business with a customer if you're not wearing a facial covering in any public space, indoor or outdoor. We have seen a spike in new cases across the state. The requirement took effect yesterday. And were you out and about at all? Did you notice this, or how was it at the car lot?
Yeah, I was at work, and the owner himself was very cautious about this. And whenever customers would approach the showroom or even just outside kicking tires, as they say, he said to make sure we had masks kind of with us to offer people if they didn't have their own. I noticed a few people didn't have them, and I was worried about confrontation, but they reluctantly, kind of put them on. They did have their own on them. They were just hoping they wouldn't have to put them on, maybe.
I was reading an interesting article on Lifehacker. The author was a very funny writer, and it was talking about if you're going out to restaurants, don't be a jerk, basically. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The thing was, one, do you really even need to go? Why do you need to go to this restaurant? But if you do, don't act like you're the king, okay? Be respectful of the rules that they have. If you don't like the rules, don't go. If you have a family member that doesn't believe in the virus or doesn't want to wear a mask, don't invite them. And these people are putting their safety and health of themselves, their families, the whole business on the line. So maybe these days it's not quite 15% tip. Maybe, there's cases out there online to be made for 50% tip because they've been open through this whole thing and exposing themselves to a mass population. It was a really interesting article about this. And don't think you're special. Don't think you're going to go, come on.
Yeah, don't do that.
Just me. No,
yeah, you're not exception.
Special.
No,
you're not the exception. I thought it was a really fascinating article there on Lifehacker, which is a site we used to go to all the time and find news and information. Now it's been all COVID all the time.
Just be nice, everybody, and just follow these rules. This is different for all of us. It's a challenge for everybody, not just individuals. Washington State Parks announcing cabins, yurts, and other roofed accommodations in more than 30 state parks are now available to reserve. They're open and available. These facilities are located in diverse state park landscapes across the state. Roofed accommodations at state parks include cabins, vacation homes, yurts, rustic shelters, teepees, platform tents, and even a fire lookout fall into the rustic shelter category.
So you know about the fire lookouts over in the Yakima Reservation area?
No, I'm not quite familiar with these.
So over in eastern Washington, they have these basically super tall lookouts. And apparently, First Peoples of Washington would go up there and they'd do lookouts for smoke and things like that, fire lookouts.
Oh, okay. Oh, I know what these structures are. Yeah, so you can rent them out?
You can rent them out. And if you believe in this type of thing, those fire lookout areas over there in eastern Washington oftentimes are great lookout spots for UFOs.
Really? Wow. I never heard that. I know what these are now. I've never heard the tie-in with kind of the paranormal with UFOs. That's pretty cool.
Well, I only know this because of my, not Ancient Aliens, but the other one I watch, Hangar One. They tell a story about tribal members being up in these lookouts. And they kind of do a triangulation thing, so three people are in three different ones, and you can see a whole wide range, for lookout. And at night, the sky goes forever. That's pretty cool.
I wonder if Bobo uses them for squatch hunting. Roofed accommodations.
Congratulations.
You saw Squatch. Roofed accommodations will be cleaned and sanitized, of course, to COVID-19 standards between uses. To give staff adequate time for these safety procedures, check-in time is now 4 p.m. instead of 2:30 p.m., and checkout time remains the same at 11 a.m. Those staying at cabins, rustic shelters, and many vacation houses must bring their own bedding, linens, and towels. More details about which vacation homes do provide linens are available, and you can make reservations as well online at washington.goingtocamp.com. And there are budget cuts facing the most vulnerable out there in long-term care, and advocates are rallying against these cuts. And Eric Tegedoff has more for us.
Long-term care advocates in Washington state are rallying against budget cuts they say would be disastrous for the state's most vulnerable residents. As the state grapples with COVID-19's economic fallout, agencies are being asked to consider what cuts look like. The worst-case scenario would slash $220 million from Washington's Medicaid long-term care services budget. Kathy McCall with AARP Washington says that would affect more than 20,000 older people and people with disabilities.
This is not the time to cut the long-term care budget. These are the most vulnerable of our community and also the most susceptible to the COVID virus. So we do not want to undermine the system that helps protect those individuals.
Other groups urging the state not to make these cuts include Casa Latina, Catholic Community Services, and the Home Care Workers Union SEIU 775. McCall says many people receive services in their homes, helping them with things such as getting dressed and preparing meals. She says cuts also will hurt caregivers at a time when millions of people are unemployed.
We've got to recognize that one of the largest industries is home care workers, and this could also have a devastating impact on the ability for long-term care workers to have work.
McCall understands that lawmakers will have to make tough decisions on the budget, but hopes they won't cripple the safety net for vulnerable Washingtonians. She says cuts to long-term care services could have long-lasting effects.
It might be something that we can't recover from, and it could make it difficult for future seniors as they need assistance with long-term care, that they might not be able to be eligible and might not be able to receive that type of care.
Lawmakers are preparing for a special session to address the state's budget shortfall, but a date for the session has not yet been set. For Washington News Service, I'm Eric Tegedoff.
Oh, thanks, Eric. And Mary Kay Letourneau has passed away. She, of course, married her former sixth grade student after convicted for raping him. She was 58. Her lawyer, David Gerke, told news outlet Letourneau died of cancer yesterday. A former suburban Seattle teacher who became tabloid fodder, pleading guilty back in 97 to raping Vili Falau, who was 12 at the time. They married in 2005 in Woodinville after serving a 7.5-year prison term. They have 2 daughters together. Falau filed for a legal separation from Letourneau back in 2017. Again, today on the show, Port Commissioner Dick Taylor as well as Wendy Smith stop in to talk about things happening at the Port of Shelton, and EDC Director Jennifer Baria talks about help available to businesses in Mason County. And coming up, the next 2 folks who are deserving for dinner right here on Daybreak.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. Once again, as the Daybreak Show rolls on here. Spencer, it's time to find out once again who is deserving for dinner. This has been fun the last couple days.
It is. We've done a lot of contests, everything from giving away books to seminar tickets, movie theater tickets. This is one of the most rewarding ones, I think, for us, too, to be able to read the stories of the people who are deserving for dinner. They're really heartwarming emails we're getting.
So once again, Eric Anisco from the Bayshore, Texaco, and the Hillcrest Shell city council member called me up and said, I've got a bunch of gift cards I bought from the Strip, and I'd like for you to figure out a way to get them out into the community to spread some, goodwill for folks as well as help out the Strip. And so we came up with this deserving for dinner. The nominations are still ongoing until we run out of gift cards, basically. Daybreak at ifiber1.com. Daybreak at ifiber1.com is the email. So send us a nomination, and we will read it on the air and get that person a gift card, just like this person. Who do you got?
We have Jody, who writes in, I'd like to nominate my parents, Joyce and Charlie, for the dinner certificate. They've stepped up above and beyond in helping me all my life, but more so since the pandemic began. They take my daughter several days during the week so that I can work from their main house while working from home. I know it's their granddaughter, but they could easily say no and let me figure things out on my own, especially since they have graciously given up their main residence for me to set up my work situation. They most definitely deserve this nice treat for all they do for me and my daughter. Sincerely, Jody. That's a nice one.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one. Melissa writes in, I would like to nominate my best friend, Talina, for the dinner. She is an amazingly strong woman. She is raising my 3 beautiful bonus children and running a household. She is always thinking of others over herself. Been a rough year with some family issues and a loss of her grandparents. She has persevered through everything and always finds time to help someone in need. Again, Melissa nominating Talina. Congratulations. This is, again, another good one for someone deserving for dinner here in our community. What a fun contest, and a big thanks, of course, to Eric, and great food there at the Strip. If you can, stop by and frequent them.
Yeah, I can't wait to continue this one. We have a lot more to give away, so keep sending in those nominations.
More Daybreak Show is coming up.
You're listening to Daybreak on iFiber One News Radio.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show as we continue in our in-person, in-studio interviews. It's a new look to the Radio Ranch. And from the Mason County Economic Development Council Executive Director, Jennifer's here. Jennifer, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good to see you here in studio in the mask and everything.
Right. It's nice to be mic'd because I feel like this muffles.
It does, and this is certainly a new way businesses all across the county are having to do things.
We're just making it work.
Yeah.
Whatever we can do to bring business back, we're just making it work.
We've talked over the last couple of weeks that the different sources of income and grants are still available. We heard the news that the Congress passed an extension of the Paycheck Protection Program, the PPP. What did that do for folks?
Well, I think some people hadn't applied because of two reasons. You had people that didn't think that the timeline was long enough to really make it worth it. So they've extended out the coverage. It's not 8 weeks now. I believe it's 30 weeks. Okay. I'll double check that. But they've also extended the application time. So if you were on the fence and you didn't make it before the application time, there's still $1.3 billion, and I believe they even increased that amount to apply for. So there's funds there that will cover your payroll, that will help with that. It is a forgivable, essentially a forgivable loan. So parts of that funding you won't have to pay back. There's a deferment on when you start paying. So you just have to work with your local lender. We've got some really great ones. Our Community Credit Union, Peninsula, Key Bank, Columbia, Heritage, Kitsap Bank up in the north end. So really work with your different financial institutions to get your application in.
Why do you think all that money is still on the table? If a business, I think if a business was seeing this coming down the horizon, or even able to now look back and go back and reapply or apply for the first time, those monies are there to help the businesses. You notice that when it's not pandemic time, but just in general, when there's pots of money that are available to folks?
They very rarely sit there.
Wait, the pots of money sit there? They get doled out pretty quick?
They usually get doled out pretty quick. Okay. And the first pot of PPP money did go really fast. I think we had quite a few questions around what is within that forgivable side. The restrictions have been minimized now through the second round. So people that were looking at it going, well, I don't know if the paperwork is worth figuring out what could be forgivable, and then it goes through that whole process, and then at the end you're like, oh, well, no, that's not forgivable. It's more clear now, so they've opened it up for that second. Well, I guess it's more like a third round now. So I think you'll see those applications start to come in, and we'll utilize that money. Yeah.
What are some of the different ways that the EDC has been able to, over the past, help out businesses? I know we talked the business builder courses and things,
which is coming back.
And this is now a great time. Would these business builder courses be good for someone looking to rebuild their business, or is this a time for them to kind of take a step back and really assess whether or not there's a future for their business, or are these strictly new businesses?
I think all of the above. You have the opportunity to look at what we've noticed as we've gone through these little grant programs that we've had, and as we ramp up to the more money that's coming in, people's financials are done in multiple different ways. So getting to a point where people are looking at their own financials and how they can leverage those funds toward future dollars, being able to uniformly kind of blanket those reports so that they look similar, so that you're reporting on the same things for each one, I think is always a good kind of training for a business at any time. So the business builder courses are not specifically for startups. That's just who utilizes them, because they're the ones that are out there looking for trainings. Sorry, my mask keeps catching on my chin and coming down.
That's what happens.
So you'll start to see the businesses realize that through this, I think any sort of emergency situation really kind of pulls out what you could do better, what was working but wasn't really working comes really to the forefront. So you'll start to see a lot of those businesses utilize any trainings that come up, any potential for help really regulating what it is that they do in their business. So I think those trainings are going to be beneficial but I also think you're going to see them kind of start to morph to not just startups, to be able to encompass established businesses.
On ChooseMason.com, you're able to click on the COVID-19 section there. It's got a lot of great resources. Also there, the links on the website for those business builder courses, free to businesses in Mason County. So take advantage, because the opportunities are there. Well, we'll continue through the summer and see how things work out for everybody, and if there's further legislation down the road that may help, we'll of course talk about that. And
keep your eye open. We've just closed 2 micro enterprise businesses grants. We've got the Working Washington grant has closed, and those approval applications are moving forward, so you'll start to see that money go into the businesses. We've got a local one from the CARES Act money that's going to the county. It looks like that's going to be a phased program, so you're going to have opportunities as you ramp up and get back in. Some businesses that thought, okay, you know what, I can handle this, I can absorb this, might see something that knocks them back again. These are great opportunities at a local level that you're not competing statewide for different kind of businesses. It is very locally specific. Our county commissioners really want to see that funding being pushed back into the community. So check back, and we'll keep pushing out the information as it comes available.
Very nice, Jennifer. Good to see you. And Karen's in studio here as we're back at it.
She's our producer today.
We'll find out, I guess, if she does whether or not this interview airs. So thank you very much. And ChooseMason.com, the website, we'll put the links to that in the show notes.
Thank you.
From the iFiber One News Radio studios, you're listening to Daybreak.
Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey and Spencer Hughes on the Daybreak Show. As we continue our in-person, in-studio interviews coming back, we've got the great folks from the Port of Shelton, Dick Taylor and Wendy Smith. Hello, how are you?
Good morning.
Hello.
Yeah.
It's good to see you guys back in studio. It's been months.
Yeah, it's been 3 months, yeah.
So, and obviously we're wearing our masks during all this, and it's been a wholly different couple of months.
Yeah.
We've only had a chance to check in a couple times with you guys over the course of this. So, how have things been going with the port? Everybody remains healthy, and everybody's
Well, we're all healthy.
Okay.
That's the best part off the bat.
That's right. Yep.
Okay. How are things going? Let's just tick down through the different properties and start at the airport.
Okay. Let me just start first in the office and kind of what we've done since the shutdown. So the office has been closed since really mid-March, end of March, I guess, when it was mandated and kind of before. And so we all were home working virtually as we could. Of course, that doesn't sit well for maintenance. It's tougher. But they've been able to go back. They went back, I can't even remember when now. I lose time
back in
track.
April,
but
yeah.
They went back in, shortly after we could. And they're able to socially distance. So they're able to mask if they need to, but our bays are large. They can be in their own bays. They're on different properties mowing. And we had a lot of essential functions like mowing that have to happen. Otherwise, you have a bigger problem. So, again, our office is still closed, but I have one staff person who comes in every day and answers the phone. And then 3 of us are working still remotely for the most part, going in the office as needed. We thought that our commission meeting this week could be actually in person, but the governor just extended that for 1 week, so we're not able to do that again.
How have those meetings been virtually?
Well, I mean, they work. And they're fine, but I personally don't like them. I mean, just like talking to you now, you've got to have a face-to-face, person-to-person contact to make it real to me, to make it fruitful. And just to look at somebody and see in their eyes and see them smile and what have you. I mean, it means a lot. But we do get our business done we use Zoom.
Sure.
And we're doing the same thing with the PRTPO and some other stuff that I do. So I'm used to doing it now, but I don't enjoy it like I do the person-to-person contact that we normally had over the years.
You can get the technical aspects of the job completed.
Yeah.
But the personal stuff is tough. And that's exactly what I was talking with Sheriff Salisbury. It's he's a very expressive person. And you can see it, in his eyes a little, but there's no smiles, and that's really tough. You got some news coming out of the airport here.
Yeah, there's a big study going on right now from the state of Washington Aviation Division, WSDOT, where they're looking at there's 20 airports throughout Western Washington.
Yeah, they're narrowing
narrowing the list down to 24. Possible expansion of SeaTac type operations, commercial, passenger, what have you operations, and we're on that list. But they're looking at us, Sanderson Field.
So is that along the same story that we hear at South Thurston County?
Yeah, and I do have an update kind of to that. David Fleckenstein, he's the director of WSDOT Aviation, and he emailed. Our goal now is to let them know that, yes, we're interested, which we are, and we've said we are. But he indicated that what they were looking at is either, they call them greenfield sites that they could build a whole nother SeaTac versus expanding existing airports. There are no official greenfield sites. So the one that has cropped up in some of the latest newspaper articles, et cetera, it's a story it may be looked at.
Yeah.
But in that was from a study that was done in 1992, it sounds like. So it was further back. They looked at it. They potentially thought about, and I may be wrong on that date, and I could look. But anyway, that is less likely, obviously, than to build a whole nother SeaTac. You just think about even an expansion of an existing airport could mean, further traffic. It would mean louder, that kind of thing. So all of it is hard. But to build from the ground up would be
even harder.
Yeah.
There are some.
And they're looking at us not as the SeaTac, another SeaTac. They would look at us as a field to support commercial and private aviation that's being moved because an existing airport is expanding into the SeaTac style airport.
Okay.
And so the little guys would leave, and then they would come to an airport like ours.
So it would expand our GA service, or it could expand something like cargo, which we, with all of our land, with the former fairgrounds property being, tied into aviation only, I mean, we are just ripe for, plus we have our own water system, we have our own, we have tons of power, we have fiber optics throughout, I mean, we have so much to offer.
And over the years, too, you've proven large planes could land. If there's let's say something happens in Thurston and there's an emergency, can be rerouted.
Yep.
Sure.
With some
and we've taken large planes there.
Yeah.
Of course, we've had 747s land at Sanderson Field. But they don't take off.
They don't take off again. You start taking those things
and they're
apart.
pretty empty when they land.
Sure. What about Johns Prairie? How have things been working over there?
Great, yeah. So just, typical, operations going on. But we do have some potentials of people, or I should say businesses, looking at their land to possibly build buildings. We actually, when we were able to do our strategic retreat planning back in February, before all this happened, one of the things we talked about doing, we have an old shed building that has kind of been, one wall on the back and open air, and we thought, it was a good space, like a 5,000 square foot space for someone to come in and do some kind of warehousing, something. So we thought internally our crew could get the sheet metal, wall that in. There's a little training building that has a bathroom, and so it could be something like an office and a warehouse, and then it's got a lot of paved area that's just been existing. It's just kind of sat. So that's one thing that we're kind of gearing up to work on internally, and then maybe get that leased out as well. Tenant-wise, our tenants are doing great. We've had a few slowdowns. We're working with them individually, but for the most part, they've all been successful in applying for the federal dollars to help keep them operating. A lot of them are essential, so they've been able to continue that way. That's it's great for them, it's great for the economy, it's great for us. So really we haven't seen here dire. And I think it's more because we're not in the retail, we're not in the, the serving sector. We're definitely manufacturing and that kind of thing, which could have continued,
Sure.
So,
well, good.
Yeah. So I'd say, in the worst of times, things are really up, and we've seen even advance of some new operations or operations in tenants that haven't typically been, they've been kind of a quiet mom and pop type business that have really jumped, and that's like home food service that's commercial, and they're, regulated by USDA. We've seen some of that expand and different things that now, or the mushroom industry. We have a gentleman that rents a building, not fungi perfecti, but a small scale growing mushrooms to serve the restaurant market, and because of their medicinal, thought of medicinal, with people health concerns and that kind of thing. So it's interesting the kind of ebbs and flows of our different businesses and what becomes kind of in a hot market in times like this. So.
Well, it's been great to catch up with you guys and see you here in studio.
You too.
We'll continue this as best we can. And still, portofshelton.com, you can get latest information. And folks are able to watch the meetings, the commission meetings online as well. Yep. Dick Taylor and Wendy Smith, good to see you here as we find out what's happening with the Port of Shelton.
You
it's
too.
Good to be on this side of the grass.
That's right. Good to see you.
You too.
Thank you so much for listening to today's Daybreak with Jeff Slakey podcast. Again, I'm so happy and honored you found us and chose to listen. Please subscribe, rate, review, and share this with your circle of influence. It's a collection of some of the interviews, news, and conversation during Daybreak with Jeff Slakey on iFiber One News Radio KMAS, weekdays from 6 to 9. Thank you so much again, and talk with you next time.